All right, I'll call the meeting of the committee to order and read the obligatory announcement that any member of the public wishing to speak further regarding an issue on the 2013 Budget Committee agenda may appear before Council at its meeting on July 9th at 7 p.m. when the recommendations from this meeting will go forward for final consideration. If you wish to speak as a delegation, please sign the sheet located at the back of the room or notify the Clerk's Department before noon the day of the Council meeting. Any PowerPoint presentations need to be forwarded to the Clerk's Department no later than noon the day of the meeting. And I had, oh, there it is. Clerks are so helpful. We have no regrets. Committee, are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? Thank you. The first item is the appointment of the 2013 Budget Chair, Councillor Duddick.
I'd like to nominate Councillor Adams.
Thank you. Councillor Adams, do you accept the nomination? Any other nominations? I'll close the nominations then, and I guess you are the appointee. I don't know that we even need a vote. Do you want to vote?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All those in favor?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Opposed, if any. That carries, and now you really are the chair, despite the effort to screw the system up there. And I will pass the chair by leaving it, and I'm taking my copy. And my copy.
Thank you, committee. And the main business of the day is the 2013 budget directions and the 2014 and 2015 budget forecast. Mr. Green, I believe you're going to start us off and then pass the presentation to Nancy Sully.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and congratulations, or maybe it should be condolences on the budget process. It's always a very tough process, and as the Budget Committee begins its work, I want to take a few moments to share with the Budget Committee the conversations that I've been having with the leadership team on our role in the budget process. As CAO, I am committed to ensuring that the town's operations are as effective and efficient as possible in meeting the goals and objectives of Council. As I look back over the last 6 years, we've undergone tremendous change. We've added 800,000 square feet in new facilities. We've added many new parks, trails, and roads. We've improved service levels in areas where we knew we were behind. With all of these improvements and changes, we've had to hire new staff, create new programs, develop new marketing materials, create maintenance schedules, and address public's questions and concerns. We've come through a period of modernization of the town's systems and operations. We've implemented program performance-based budgeting. We've documented all of our planning and development processes. We've implemented asset management. We've launched new information systems, including the new customer relationship management software that's being implemented for Service Oakville. We've done all this as prudently as possible with a careful eye on the bottom line. And we've added this new capacity while still ensuring the smooth day-to-day operations of the town. But there comes a time when you do need to pause for a moment and review what you've done to ensure you are achieving the desired results. We began this process of review and evaluation in last year's budget process. Staff prepared a comprehensive and comparative review of the town's programs and services to ensure that Council was satisfied with the current levels of service. As a result of that review, some changes were made to last year's budget, but by and large, the key result was that Council provided clear direction to staff that the current programs and services delivered by the town were valued and should be maintained. Now that we know that we're in the right businesses, and that's of course is always key, our role is now to begin to look at how we deliver those services at the activity level. Because while there are some 50 to 60 services that the town delivers, there's probably 500 to 600 activities that support all those various services. And we need to make sure that we're maximizing the value for our taxpayer. At this point in time, as I've looked over the last month or so with the treasurer and the deputy treasurer, I believe we can achieve as staff $2 to $3 million in operational changes, and that's what I will be targeting going forward. We need to look at how we've grown to see if there's any duplication in costs and services as a result of all of our activity. We need to look at our work and whether we can organize it differently to reduce costs. We need to make sure all parts of the organization are operating at full capacity. We will ensure that our cost recovery levels are appropriate, and we'll look to see where we can earn new revenues, form new partnerships, and expand existing ones. We will also have to identify for council those areas that will never operate at full capacity, and council may choose to maintain those from a fairness and equity point of view. This review will be completed over the next 2 years when we're looking at the number of activities. The timing is critical because our master plans are nearing completion, and as we know, master plans tend to drive even more programs and services. By identifying savings now, we can begin to build capacity for our future budgets to look at new services and new implementations from the master plans without increasing the taxes to recover their full costs. But even with identifying $2 to $3 million in savings, and maintaining the same level of service, so we're talking about efficiencies and effectiveness, it will still not be enough to meet council's objective, assuming that you do wish to see the overall tax increases still be maintained within inflation, which is currently running around 2%. And you'll see that when Nancy makes her presentation. We will, however, bring forward to council further opportunities which you can look at to make other changes. These changes, of course, are never easy choices, but they are what we need to do to look at our current level of funding. So at this point, I think, Mr. Chairman, it's a good time to turn it over to Nancy, and she'll actually walk you through the numbers.
We get them to put it on the screen. There we go. Sorry. Good morning. Today marks the kickoff of the staff 2013 budget process. Today I'll walk you through the 2013 base budget forecast as well as the 2014 and 2015 projected increases. As Ray said, inflation is currently running at approximately 2%. There's been a lot of articles in the paper recently. The Bank of Canada's target is 2%, so we are using 2% as our general inflation number. We have assumed a 2% increase on our materials, supplies, and purchase services. This reflects some of the recent contract renewals that we have seen within the town, and we feel that it is a reasonable rate. Fuel costs have been a little less volatile over the past few months than what they have been in the last couple of years. We budgeted $1.07 a litre in the 2012 budget. In the first 5 months of 2012, our costs have been ranging between $1.05 and $1.09 a litre, depending on the type of fuel. For 2013, we have assumed a 3% increase. This would bring the per litre cost to $1.10. And we'll be revising that and looking at that during the staff budget process and make adjustment if required. Insurance costs are not shown on the slide. However, we did just receive our insurance bill for July 1st, 2012 to June 30th, 2013. And the increase projected is 2%. When you add in the new facilities, such as the school sites and the post office, it brings the increase to 3%. This is quite a bit less than what we have experienced over the past few years. Our utilities have been increased 3% on hydro and 2% on heat and water, and this is based on the recommendation of our purchasing department. Our user fees have been increased by 2% to maintain cost recovery. All revenues will be reviewed during the budget process to ensure that our user fees are maximized wherever possible, and our user fees will be brought forward to Council during the budget approval process. Our planning, building, and development engineering fees for processing development applications are currently being reviewed based on updated process mapping. For fee increases resulting from this process will be incorporated in the budget presented in November. Our personnel increases included in the budget include the approved collective agreements for transit and fire. As well, we have included a reasonable settlement amount in there for the union contracts that are up in 2013. The salary and wage budget also includes step increases for employees moving through their step grid. Our benefit costs are impacted both by increases in our benefit carrier rates as well as the increase in the OMERS rate. 2013 marks the third year of the phased-in OMERS rate increase. We had a 1% increase in 2011, 1% in 2012, and now 0.9% in 2013. This brings our benefit costs up by 11%. As well, the base budget includes 13.5 gap positions in our planning, building, and development engineering programs. These positions have been gapped for the past several years and will remain gapped until revenues increase. The base budget provides only for the maintenance of existing services and does not include service enhancements or new initiatives. The exception to this is the impact of capital projects, and I'll talk about that more in a minute. The budget includes the cost increases that I've just outlined, and as well, it assumes 1% in new assessment growth. Based on information received from MPAC, at this point we feel 1% is a reasonable number. 2012 is a reassessment year, and MPAC has told us that their focus will be on the reassessment. It could have an impact on our growth number for 2013. As I mentioned, the base budget includes the operating impacts from capital projects. In total, there's $2.6 million in operating impacts from capital in the 2013 base budget. This represents 1.8% of the tax increase. These costs have been divided into two components. The first component, $1.3 million, includes the impact of capital projects that were completed or will be completed in 2012, such as the annualized impact of Queen Elizabeth Park Community and Cultural Centre, growth to the road and parks network, as well as support for various software applications implemented during 2012, such as the web design, asset management, and AVL. The second component also totals $1.3 million and includes a partial impact for 20 firefighters to staff the new North Station, as well as the operating cost to operate the new North Oakville Works Depot. It includes the incremental increase to the EAB program, as well as costs for transit caravan drivers and supervisors. These costs are related to 2013 projects, and with the exception of the North Depot, are subject to the approval of the 2013 budget. The capital levy provides a significant source of funding for our capital forecast and represents municipal best practice. The town has had a policy for many years of adding 1% to the tax rate each year to increase funding available for infrastructure renewal. This has allowed us to be one of the few municipalities that fund infrastructure renewal to the same level as our annual amortization costs. Based on information from our asset management program, we're in the process of determining our ongoing needs and the funding required to meet them over the long term. This will give us a better idea of how long the levy will be required to ensure sufficient funding for infrastructure renewal. The budget also includes an additional $250,000 for road resurfacing. This was part of the 2010 Budget Committee recommendation and has been included in the base budget. As well, 2013 is the final year of the local infrastructure levy, and this represents the tax shift from the region for the upload of the GTA pooling. It adds 0.86% to our budget, but it also reduces the region's budget by the same amount, and as a result has no impact on the taxpayer. Based on the assumptions that I've just outlined, the town's base budget increase is currently projected at 5.75%. This chart presents a high-level summary of the impact of the various components and is meant to supplement the program-based budgeting information that's found in the report in today's agenda. As the chart shows, the town's base budget increase, including inflation, adjustments to revenue, and transfers to and from reserves, as well as the capital impacts for completed capital projects, is 3.83%. This is the amount required to maintain our existing service levels. When the $1.3 million in capital impacts from projects completed in 2013 are included and our assessment growth, it brings our Total increase before the capital and infrastructure levies down to 3.71%. The capital levy and the infrastructure, the road resurfacing added an additional 1.2%, bringing our increase to 4.88%. When we add in the local infrastructure levy, which again has no impact on the overall tax bill, it brings our increase to 5.75%. The Region of Halton will be presenting their base budget forecast on July 9th. Based on information that was included in their 2012 budget documents, they were projecting a 2.9% increase for 2013. Assuming this remains their increase and there is no increase in education rates, has been the case in the past several years, the total tax impact would be 3.3%. And this is the amount residents would see on their tax bill. This chart shows the projected increase in the town's tax levy for 2014 and 2015. Both increases are shown after growth and do not assume any new services or service level enhancements. They do include operating impacts from capital. We're currently projecting a 3.8% increase for 2014, and this assumes 1.25% in assessment growth. And for 2015, we're projecting 3.5%, assuming a 1.5% increase in new assessment growth. When the region's forecasted increases are included, it brings the total increase in 2014 to 2.49% and 2.42% for 2015. And I did want to note there is a chart included in the report today that shows the increases by program area. When you look at the chart, 2013 shows a 0 number. That assumes that the levy required is actually levied, and then you have a fresh starting point for 2014. So 2013, the increase is $9.8 million. 2014, it's an additional $8.9 million approximately, and then 2015, it's $8.2 million. I included this slide as it's just a reminder of the budget guideline that was given to staff during the 2011 budget process. Staff were directed to prepare the 2012 to 2014 budgets with total property tax increases in line with inflation. The town's overall increase is currently projected at 3.3%. To bring the increase in line with the budget guideline of inflation, the total increase needs to be capped at 2% based on current inflation projections. To meet this, the town's budget increase would need to be capped at 2.4%, which would require a 3.35% reduction in the town's tax increase. In order to meet that reduction, we would need to reduce our budget by approximately $5 million, and I've just shown the impact that would have. To reduce the tax levy increase, the CAO has committed to undertake efficiency review of all town programs and services to ensure the activities within these services are delivered in the most efficient and cost-effective manner. To date, as part of PB2, staff have identified service levels delivered within each program. The next step, which will be undertaken over the next 2 years, involves reviewing the activities delivered within each program. As we move through the 2013 staff budget process, we will begin exploring options to smooth the impact this has on our town operations. The efficiency reviews, as Ray said, are expected to produce permanent savings to the operating budget. However, they will not achieve the council guideline of an overall increase in line with inflation. The staff proposed budget presented in November will include options to reduce the tax levy increase to meet the guideline. And as Ray said, they will likely require some impacts to service levels or our infrastructure funding. Departments will be developing their budgets with the constraints of this year's process in mind. This slide shows some proposed budget timelines. These, I want to stress, are tentative. The Clerk's Department will be working with the Budget Committee to set the dates up. Right now, we're proposing that staff would work on the budget July to October. We were anticipating that the budget documents would be presented to the Budget Committee the week of November 12th. We will schedule 2 meetings to review the program budgets, and right now we show November 20th and 22nd. Again, those will be determined. 2 meetings will be set aside for public delegations. and then budget deliberations. And right now, we're currently targeting a budget approval of December 10th. This will be reviewed with the Budget Committee, and the exact dates will be determined shortly. And that concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Any questions, Mayor Burton?
Thank you very much for the presentation. I wonder if you could go back to the, you mentioned MPAC and 2012, you know, the reassessment of 2012. In talking with residents around the town, I frequently encounter people who believe that when their assessment goes up, the town receives a windfall. And so one-on-one, I explain how we recalibrate so that there is no windfall and the tax rate actually falls as a result of an assessment going up. So I wonder if, for the benefit of the public, you could walk through that for everyone so that we can try to get the word out that no windfall comes to the town.
Okay. That's correct. There is no windfall. So every year, when the reassessment happens, so it happened in 2008, and they gave you a 2008 value. That's been phased in over 4 years, so 2012 is the last year. There is an assumption by some people that that actually gives us more money. In actual fact, it doesn't. What happens is each year the region calculates a notional tax rate. So what they do is they take the total amount that's required to be levied, divided by the assessment, and they come up with a rate. So each year the tax rate has actually dropped. So if you looked at the tax bills over the past 4 years, you would see that your tax rate has dropped. Because what we do is we get a tax rate that levies the amount we require. We don't receive additional revenue. The same thing will happen with this reassessment. There will be shifts, so there will be some areas, whatever the average increase for the town is, if you hit that average exactly, there would be absolutely no impact to you. If your property value is going up higher than in other areas, you would see a tax increase, others will see a decrease. It doesn't give us any additional revenue.
Right, so would it therefore be accurate to tell people that we're only allowed to raise from taxes the amount that's in the approved budget? We can't take more.
Absolutely.
With the single exception of supplementary taxes.
Absolutely.
And even there, it gets folded back in the next year.
Into the next year, that's correct.
Mr. Lalonde, did you have some additional information you wanted to? Okay.
So that's why when we look at our latest BMA municipal survey for 2011, which I just saw yesterday, you find that we now have one of the lowest tax rates in the province. I mean, Toronto and Milton have lower tax rates, but right there in the top, you know, in the lowest 4 or 5, that's where we sit now. And it's because of this recalibration.
That's right.
Thank you. My next question is, on the question of asset management and matching contributions to capital with depreciation, will staff be bringing us information about the gap between historical cost and replacement cost, and how we plan to deal with that?
We are currently working on that right now. We have all of the information from our asset register. There's still some tweaking to do with the road information, but I'm in the process with staff of determining what the actual requirements are based on our asset management program. So it actually tells us what kind of maintenance we need to do over the next 40 years. I'm then forecasting out revenue so we can actually see what the difference is between the historical value and the actual replacement cost that we need to do. So yes, we are working on that.
Thank you. And then finally, I just have one other question, and if I could ask the clerk to put this on the overhead. I've caught the clerk in the middle of a different mission. Thank you. All right. Now, if we just adjust it a little more, the bottom's cut off. That's good enough, thank you. All right, so based on the assumptions that we've been shown and our history back to 1988, what I've done is I've given you a red bar or column that is the total tax levy, and a blue bar or column, which is, zoom back out a little tiny bit. Okay, thank you. And what that is all fees. And the lines are the 4-year moving averages. And the sole point of this is to show, and now there's two ways to see this. If you look at the slope of the line, the blue line and the red line, you'll notice that the slope of the red line is much steeper than the blue line. And what that shows is that we have increased historically, not just this council, but we have as a community historically increased taxes at a faster rate than we've increased fees. The amount of the spike that's over the line helps you quantify the different speed of increase. And so my question to staff is, I know that staff for every year that I've been here have been bringing forward advice to us that we should get our fees on a cost of living basis rather than on an absolute amount to prevent just this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Will you be bringing us more, what will you be bringing us to deal with this gap in the rate of increase between the two sources of revenue?
Well, two things we're doing. Every year we look at our user fees. We are focusing on maintaining cost recovery. We're focusing on increasing them where possible to ensure they are covering more of the cost. The second is we are currently developing a rates and fee policy, which will come to council in the fall. And through that policy, what we're recommending is that there be a methodology that's used consistently across the town for determining what the user fees should be based on the benefit to the individual versus the taxpayer. And all our fees will go through that process over 2013. We're doing it currently with planning and development, but all the other fees will be reviewed for this very purpose to ensure that we are recovering the cost that we should be, or we're identifying what the cost of the program is so that decisions can be made.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Mr. Lalonde, did you have something that you wanted to add on top of those responses?
Yes, I just wanted to note for the committee's benefit that because this is an assessment year, we will be bringing a report forward late this year documenting what a reassessment involves. So you get more detail on that later on.
Councillor Dedek?
Thank you. Just in terms of process, could you advise whether or not we'll be doing a survey at the onset of the process similar to what's taken place in the past?
We haven't had any discussions regarding that at this point, but we will be looking into the best time to do a survey.
Thank you.
And Councillor, I'd be interested in your feedback with respect to when you think that would be appropriate. So perhaps we can speak about that. Councillor Knoll?
Buttons are all on the wrong side over here. I don't want to jinx anything by asking this question, but I've been here for a while now, and every year we have this 0% education tax rate increase or lack of increase. Mm-hmm. Is there any danger there? Like, have we heard anything from the province in terms of, I mean, in light of their financial circumstances, as to their expectations as to how that, if they're going to maintain zero, and if so, for how long? Because that's been a great windfall, you know, obviously for the residential and commercial ratepayers, but I just can't imagine it can be permanent.
We haven't heard anything to date that's told us that they would move either way. Right. So there's been no word.
So we're basing this on the historical assumption of zero.
Yeah.
Mr. Green?
Through you, Mr. Chair, though. In part, that's why I also think we have to go and look at our efficiency and effectiveness, because that the music could stop on that musical chairs, and that's why I think we do need to be moving towards reductions in our own services.
And just as a disclaimer, I was touching wood when I said that, so if it does go up, I have no responsibility. My second question, and I know we'll get into the minutiae detail of budget, and I'm not going to get into it today, except for I just want to ask one question on the table on some page 8, I think it is. I didn't bring my glasses this morning. It talks about the capital impact. Sorry, the net operating impact of new capital for the.
Oh, right.
Maybe I should. Can you hold this back a little bit for me? I'm just kidding. The net capital impact for the 20 firefighters for North Station. Can you explain that for me?
So we're in the process of building a public works depot, yes, with a temporary fire station in there. It's currently projected to open in early 2014, which would mean in order to have it staffed for January of 2014, the firefighters would be hired in the fall of 2013 so that they receive their training.
So that's just for that period of time? Okay,
that's right.
good, because I was thinking if we can get 20 firefighters for $780,000, that's a bargain.
No, there's another 1.3 million in 2014.
Oh, okay, great, thanks a lot.
Any others? Councillor Giddings?
Thank you. Quick question on slide 4. We show benefits increasing by 11%, including the OMERS 0.9. Just curious about some of the drivers that are affecting that.
I don't have them off the top of my head, but we have received our premium increases. So they are based, for the most part, on experience. So we've had an increase in our dental rates, increases in our LTD rates and things like that. I can actually bring back, if you would like, the actual details of the increases, but each type of benefit has a specific increase to it. They also increase, in some cases, based on earnings. So as wages go up, the benefits go up as well.
I'd appreciate that. Thanks.
It might be helpful for us during the budget process to review both the salary and benefits together as a package. When we go through contract negotiations, we're typically looking at the combination thereof, and I think it would be helpful for the committee to look at that in the same fashion.
Certainly.
Okay. Any other questions? Yes, Councillor, go ahead.
We show 13.5 gapped positions in P&D. Are there other gapped positions throughout the organization?
In the 2013 budget, there are not currently. That is something that we would look at during the budget process to determine if there are any vacancies that we feel could be gapped for the year.
Mr. Lalonde?
Yeah, just to supplement that, what Nancy's talking about are budgeted gapped positions. We have a fairly active vacancy management program that sees a lot more positions than that gapped as we go through the year. So the current total is running right now in the high 40s.
Are you satisfied, Councillor Giddings? Yeah. Any other questions for our staff at this point? Okay. Just thank you very much for the presentation of the materials. Just to be certain, are there any members of the public who wish to be a delegate today? Okay. Then members of the committee, I think we're done with the presentation materials, and we would be looking for, I think, 2 recommendations. One is that the 2013 budget directions and 2014-2015 budget forecast be received. And the second is to continue our direction to staff around the inflationary target. And so I would suggest to you something like that staff prepare the 2013 budget and recommended options, keeping the overall tax increase in line with inflation. And that would reconfirm our position from previously. Could I get a mover? Councillor Knoll? All those in favor? Thank you very much. Appreciate your work today, and I'll continue to be in contact with you over the details of the timing and the other materials. Councillor Knoll?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just on the point that was raised and by the Mayor and echoed by others on the whole impact issue, I'm wondering if, and maybe it's an appropriate question at Council, not at Budget, but I wonder if the Communications Department plans on actually working on that particular issue, because having lived through a number of MPAC reassessments, it's painful for municipal councillors and for municipal staff to deal with the communications outflows. And I'm wondering if we can be proactive in terms of communicating this, not only an explanation point of view, but from the point of view of actually preparing people, because we ultimately are the fall guys, or not the fall guys, we ultimately take the majority of the arrows. So if there's some way we can get ahead of that, we can do ourselves a big favor, I think.
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, so I think that everybody agrees with you. Here, that's right. So Mr. Green, you'll work with the staff in the preparation of a set of materials for that. Thank you. Any other issues that you want to bring forward while we're speaking about budgetary matters? No? Okay, then we're adjourned, and we'll be back again with details of the next set of meetings later on.